Okay, guys, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Today's Friday here in Israel, and it's the 6th of June, and it's about 5 minutes before 8 in the morning, and we're going to have a hot day today. 94 is our high, low is 66. And we're used to that here. It's going to be a little bit rough. We'll have to run the AC. I got up this morning and shut the AC off, and we'll turn it on in a little while. And then tomorrow we drop down to 92, and then 90, and then 89, and then back to 92. So we're getting warmer. You know, the weather is starting to get warmer. The worst month here is usually August. Okay, but we don't know how the weather's going to be this year. Israel is in a drought, by the way, and they're getting down to pretty low levels of water in the Galilee. So, you know, we were talking about that we'll get the, when he appears, we'll have the early and the latter rain, as I'm interpreting the prophecy. Okay, and I think God's doing something with the crops, with the high heat and the low temperatures. I don't know exactly what he's doing, because I'm not an agricultural guy. So I can't be that helpful, but he must know what he's doing. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he does. Okay. Let me try to get a cut and paste going here. And we can go into the live stream. Make sure we got a live stream. Looks like we do. Make sure we got plenty of sound and picture. And I'm pretty sure the moderators will be in momentarily. Yeah, cut and pasting the post is much faster. Okay. So I'm gonna do some praise, and we'll get going from there. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So what we're going to cover today is Ukraine and Russia war. We're going to talk about what's going on in Gaza, what's going on with Iran, and then we're going to get into a deep dive into what's up with Elon Musk and Trump. And I want to caution you to not take this thing with Elon Musk and Trump lightly, because it is of a very grave nature, because I do it with water. Because Elon is talking about the Epstein papers and Trump's involvement in these Epstein papers. So where did my water go? I don't know what I did with my water. Hold on a minute. I've got to find my water. I'll be right back. Oh, I think I just found it. I put it down. Okay, so Russia sort of retaliated against Ukraine, 200 missiles. That's a retaliation. Although some people are saying that's just a warm-up. Look, Russia's not that strong. People don't want to admit that they were played for suckers by the Americans with how tough Russia is, but obviously there's nothing really there when Russia is there. So, again, it's just going to be a case of Ukraine and Russia destroying each other with no victor, and that's been the case for 3 years. And Trump is continually trying to get it to stop. He wants to get access to those metals and minerals that he made the deal with Zelensky for, and if Russia keeps obliterating more and more of Ukraine, he's not going to be able to get anywhere with that. So it's always follow the money with Trump. Trump is a staunch believer of he who dies with the most toys wins, apparently, by his actions anyway. He's in a delusion, he's deranged, he's chasing gods that aren't gods. I mean, he's a very confused individual. Like the rest of the world leaders, they're very, very confused. Okay. So, I'm not terribly concerned with Ukraine and Russia. I do pay attention to what goes on. I don't think Russia's going to attack NATO unless he wants to commit hara-kiri, which is a form of suicide. That's it. I mean, the long and the short and the tall. Eventually, NATO and Europe intend to wear Russia down so badly he'll make concessions in settling with Ukraine and just go back on his merry way. And his merry way will be continuing to try to develop more and more weapons and at the same time try to get out from under sanctions and rebuild his economy. But he's, at this point, not interested in any peace. He's trying to save face to keep his image up in the world, but come on. It's a little ridiculous. How's he going to come help Iran? What's he going to do to help Iran? What? I don't know. I can't come up with any good ideas. If China and North Korea and Russia and Venezuela and Cuba and Belarus all decide they want to get into the fight, then we're going to see some very, very damaging, destructive, and different things. But I don't think with this short time frame we're in now, we're going to see much of that, really. I think the nations are going to be destroyed more like Sodom and Gomorrah were by God and God's hand, and the way the Noah's flood by God's hand, not with one nation knocking off another nation. Okay? Now, we still have to deal with ruler against ruler in America in that prophecy, and we'll get there with Elon Musk. Okay. Israel has armed what's being referred to as a gang in Gaza to take care of food distribution. So they basically gave him rifles, maybe some pistols. They didn't give him any heavy weapons or anything. I don't even think they gave him squad machine guns. They just gave him rifles. And they're supposed to stand around and protect the food distribution from Hamas, who screams, "We need humanitarian aid. The people are starving." And then when it comes, they want to stop it because they want the illusion of the people starving, and they want to steal the food for themselves and then sell it in their stores or friends of their stores for high prices and kind of fund Hamas. The word is that they're supposedly broke at this point. They can't handle the funding. I have not heard the Israeli government make an official statement on this, but it could be true or partially true. I don't know. We did a substantial strike in Lebanon yesterday. I think 4 buildings got demolished. The report that we were given by the Israeli government says that there was an underground drone facility factory that was hit. I have heard people that are pretty good at understanding what's going on in Israel. One guy said he doesn't believe that was the truth because Hezbollah wouldn't put all their eggs in one basket, but I don't think he's really looking at it carefully because it was a factory and you can't spread factories around that easily, so I think it is a true thing. The Lebanese government came out with a statement and said that we're never going to surrender, and they've never taken the weapons away from Hezbollah. They did nothing about this. They were actually in the area and they were told to leave, and they had to be strongly encouraged to leave so they didn't get killed. They're never going to help us get rid of Hezbollah, or they would have done it. They're not going to, which means we're going to eventually destroy the government of Lebanon also. Lebanon will survive, but it's going to get a lot more devastating for them up there. Okay? So that was rather big news. Not a lot happened in Syria yesterday. Not a lot happened with Iran other than jaw flapping. Some of these guys that watch military flights and stuff are saying they're seeing flights go into Qatar, Ramstein in Europe, and the Middle East in general, Israel and other places, and they're saying it looks like a buildup for an attack on Iran. Well, likely, I don't know what else it could be, unless they're trying to do a build-up for the Houthis also, which is still a royal pain in the neck of Israel. So it could be both, or it could just be Iran, or just the Houthis in Yemen, I don't know. But I don't believe it would have anything to do with Gaza, or Syria, or Iraq, or Jordan, Lebanon, or Gaza at this time. It would either be the Houthis in Yemen or Iran. Or it could be just general flights to bring supplies in for the 58,000 soldiers stationed in the various Middle East countries, which would be Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. It looks like Saudi Arabia may be getting ready to side with Israel and do Abrahamic Accords. They're, warning Iran that if they don't make a nuclear treaty deal with America, Israel's going to hit them. Israel came out with a rather official statement, I think, from Netanyahu, that said we're not going to hit Iran as long as there's negotiations going on with America. Well, what's wrong with that picture is there are no realistic negotiations going on with America. As far as I could determine, there's no scheduled continuation of negotiations. I have not been able to find a confirmed event that's on the calendar. So I think Iran has just said, forget about it. We're not stopping. We're going whole hog. That's our right, and nobody's going to tell us what to do. Go away. Leave us alone. or we'll fight with you, and we're not afraid to fight with you. And Iran is not afraid to fight. What you must understand about Iran is they don't care if they lose 11 million people. Okay? Not all military, they don't care if stuff like that happens. Now, does America really care? Probably. Because that's their image. So Trump could continue to pull the wool over everybody's eyes with more stupid treaties, talks with Iran because he's afraid of them. Or he could just bite the bullet and attack them and see what happens, which is kind of where he might go now, and I'll explain why. Elon Musk went after Trump whole hog. First, he was in the Oval Office talking about the corruption in the government in the previous administration, and he was saying things like, we found people on the Social Security rolls that are 150 years old. Do you know anybody who's 150 years old? There was extensive fraud, and a lot of managers have been getting wealthy, and either they're really great investment people and we should be following their lead on investments, or they're crooked. Now, he didn't say they were being prosecuted and having their money confiscated, so I don't know what's going on there. Trump might have just told these people to quietly resign and go away, or they'll be prosecuted, and just get it swept under the rug. That's the impression I got, because I'm not hearing anything about indictments. So I think Trump wants this to blow over, and, what they should probably do is everybody that's more than, say, 90 years old should be investigated. Not that you would have to make them come to the office, which would be a burden, but they should send a caseworker to see the person physically and make sure the person is really alive. Be him in a nursing home, a hospital, a house, wherever this person is, and make sure the person is still alive. Now, they can make the cutoff point if they want 93, 95, something like that. How many people live in excess of 95 years old? Not many, So they could eliminate a lot of it that way, instead of just, swinging for the bleachers with people that are 125, 150 years old, There must be people that have made massive fortunes off this, because there's probably people that are controlling dozens and dozens of Social Security accounts. And they could be easily making $400,000 or $500,000 a year. And that's been going on for decades. And this is a scam we just never heard of. Why didn't the 16,000 people in the FBI ever talk about it? You think they never came across it on a wiretap, or eavesdropping an email, or something like that? You think that these people that were frauding the Social Security Administration, that's the only crime they ever committed? They never did anything else wrong? I mean, where did these people live? Did they all live in the same residence, or did these people establish, if they were handling 25 different accounts, did they set up 25 residences? They couldn't do that. It would kill their profits. They'd have to set up a residence, they'd have to pay the bills, they'd have to get utilities. Somebody would need to sign leases every year or two or whatever. So there was slop in the system on the residences. They had to have a place where they could be contacted by mail or something. okay? Otherwise, the mail would be returned to them undeliverable, and that could be a red flag. So this thing runs deep, and they're not telling us the whole picture. But I do think that they are getting rid of these 130-year-old, 120-year-old people. Um, I don't even think you need to go investigate them. You know, how many if you're going to, uh, I mean, even if you're going to just target people that are over 100, well, that could be a little cruel. Let's say you went to 105 years old, everybody older than that. 99.999% of them are not real. You might have one pop up that's real. It might happen, but it probably never would. Okay? So I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I do believe Trump's getting rid of it. And he probably got rid of a lot of it already. I'll give him credit where credit is due, and he used Elon Musk to go in there and find what was wrong. Well, let me tell you the truth here. He could have went to one of the big accounting firms, okay, and put together a team from one or two or three of these accounting firms of perhaps 50 people, and gave him power to administer, to request and require information from Social Security. And they would have found it a lot cheaper than Elon Musk, a lot quicker, and their solutions would probably be rather effective. Or he could have just done it with an FBI task force. They have accountants and lawyers. He could have done it with a IRS task force. They have accountants and they understand fraud. There's a lot of ways it could have been done. It didn't need to be with Elon Musk. Why the heck does the federal government need Elon Musk when they got the Justice Department, the Treasury Department, the Homeland Security, and what do they need all this for? Very simply put, what Trump could have done is gotten rid of the heads of the Social Security Administration, which he probably did as a guess, and get, the new top dog in there to change this other people, and then create funding for 100 Social Security special agents, right? And recruit them from other agencies and from police departments and stuff off the street and train them. And it would have taken a few months, but Musk took a few months too. And, within 6 months, they could have been hired, trained, out of school, and getting warrants and, looking at everything and just busting this whole thing out. So, I'm just giving you different ways Trump could have done it, but instead, Trump decided to hire a public figure who is a businessman, not an auditor, not a criminal investigator. Okay? Was Elon Musk the right guy for this? No. Not even close. Elon Musk's an entrepreneur. Does he have knowledge of people frauding the company and packing expenses and being inefficient? Of course, any entrepreneur does. But he was a fish out of water, putting him in this role. Okay? This is forensic accountant, criminal accountant. Okay? An accountant that goes in and looks for criminality. That's basically what you had here. Any accountant's going to know people don't live to 125 and 150. Come on. So the whole thing was designed to propel Elon Musk into the public spotlight of America in the Trump administration. Okay? And then things were going okay, but then Elon Musk said he had enough of this, and he was worried about his companies and wanted to pull out. Now, that's after 6 months of Trump in office. And if I remember the figure that Trump was bellyaching about when was saying, he was talking about Elon Musk for 18 months. So Elon Musk said, no, I got to bail. That was the beginning of the fallout. And then I think Trump would say, no, you told me 18 months, sucker. Fulfill what you said. I'm not breaking my word. You're breaking your word. No, Donald, I can't. I got to go. My stocks are down, this and that. This is stupid. What do you need me to investigate Social Security fraud? It's been going on for decades, and imagine all these agents in the IRS and the FBI and Homeland Security, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and all these other federal agents, and you're going to believe that they never came across this fraud? No, they did, but it never got blown up. It's like Serpico with the New York City cops in the late 60s. The New York City cops were corrupt, okay? I knew them, okay? They were crooked, and I can tell you how they were corrupt, okay? Yes, they worked with narcotics, but the narcotics were targeted at the ghettos, Puerto Ricans and blacks. And as long as the drugs stayed there, they took money from the dealers and that was it. They weren't supposed to give it to the middle class or anything like that. That happened in the hippie days, and it didn't really happen very much either. It was the hippie days were predominantly psychedelics, marijuana, LSD, PCP, stuff like that. It wasn't heroin. Most of the hippies never, ever touched heroin. And cocaine, some of them did, but most of them were just smoking pot and taking psychedelics, mushrooms, and stuff like that. So, okay, there was the drugs. But what else went on? Okay, they didn't like the people selling drugs to the non-black, non-Puerto Rican, non-ghetto area, and it went on with there were gangs. There was a store in my neighborhood. It was a candy store next to a movie theater called Jesse's, and there were other candy stores in the neighborhood, and the guys that ran the candy stores generally wore work clothes, like, a white apron or, jeans. And this guy, Jesse, wore expensive slacks and shoes and a shirt. He was dressing like a big shot in a toy store. The other thing that used to happen is not a toy store, a candy store. His candy store would get broken into a lot. Now, other people's candy stores would never get robbed. What were you going to rob out of the candy store? Cigarettes? Okay, you can make a few bucks. Candy? Who are you going to sell candy to on the black market? Cigars, pipe tobacco. Yeah, a little bit of money there. But Jesse didn't sell tobacco. All he sold was, candy. And he kept getting robbed. Well, Jesse was a dope dealer. And the kids that were not nice kids, the bad kids that dropped out of school and stuff and had gangs, they went to Jesse. So one day I'm with my grandmother, and I'm sitting by the schoolyard. I'm about 6 or 7 or 8 years old. And the local beat cop comes over there. He was a Jewish cop named Gus, a real schmuck, a dumbbell, a nasty guy, an idiot, a real corrupt cop. All right, so he's there and he sees a bunch of gang kids in the schoolyard, and he doesn't want them on his beat. Now, they didn't have radios back then, and they didn't have bulletproof vests, and they had 38 revolvers, and they had a pretty good sized wooden nightstick. And the cops were tough, okay? They didn't have, women cops like they do today, and they had height requirements, and they did boxing in the academy training, They put gloves on and they put head protectors, mouth protector, and they would box. And the guys that couldn't fight or wouldn't fight back, they washed them out. So Gus was there, and one of the kids talked back to Gus. Boom! Smashed him across the face with the backhand. You know, and that's what he was basically doing. He was letting them know that they're not going to be coming around that schoolyard. I don't care where the heck you go, but you ain't coming to the schoolyard because they sell dope. So Jesse stayed in business for quite a while. I don't know whatever happened to him. Um, I don't know. I know that in the late 60s or early 70s, another guy took the store over that was real. He was a nice guy, a hard worker. He did health food. You know, he was the real guy. He wasn't doing dope. He was really trying to sell health food, and he did a good job of it. But I don't know what happened to Jesse. They might have busted him. Okay, let's get back to the police. So what did they do? They pulled somebody over for speeding, a bad turn, a bad U-turn, something like that, right? They'd come out, they'd put the bubble gum machine on, they'd pull them over. They'd get out, could I see your license and registration? They didn't have insurance stuff back then. And the cop would try to size them up, you know? If the person was just sitting there and not trying to communicate with the cop would just go back to the car, write the ticket, come back, have this guy sign the ticket, and go about his merry way. If the guy started talking and the cop could size him up to make sure he wasn't an undercover internal affairs guy, they would charge him, maybe $2, $5, $3, very inexpensive. Take money from them to let them off the ticket. Okay? But they were doing that. What else did they do? All the stores in the neighborhood were not getting double parking tickets. So when people wanted to run in and buy something, they couldn't get a parking spot. They could double park. The cop wouldn't give anybody any tickets. Now, the city stopped that many years later, around the late 60s, 70s, with the meter maids that would come around and give the tickets. Okay? So the stores would pay off the cops. But it was cheap. Maybe they'd give them $20 a month or something like that. It wasn't giving them $200-300. It was all very little money. And when the cops were off duty, they would come around and drop into the clothing stores and get free clothing, go with their wives. That went on too, okay? And they would go to the restaurants, and they were pretty careful. They didn't go in uniform in the restaurants and eat a free meal. You did see it, actually. You did see it, yeah. It did go on. It did go on. And they would let the merchants put stuff out on the sidewalk, which is against the law, and they were getting paid by them. And that's how they were making money. Now, if somebody came around and robbed the merchants or robbed a bank or something like that, the cops would go absolutely nuts. They knew they had to protect the merchants. They would go crazy. They would go nuts trying to find a guy, and when they found him, they'd throw him down the steps, beat him up. You know, they would say to him, "You're not going to operate in our precinct, in our neighborhood. Get at it." You know, and they'd really beat him up and then book him and throw him in jail and everything else, right? If anybody tried to, commit a rape in the neighborhood, they would go crazy too. See, they were getting a lot of money, okay? They were taking in a lot of money. The precincts had maybe 5 or 6 or 7, actually, probably 7 or more neighborhoods where they had all these stores that were kicking money up to them. And it really added up, and all the money was coming into the precinct, and they were dividing it up amongst all the different cops, the officers getting a bigger share. And they were doing a lot of favors for people. Like back then, the police captain could issue a gun license. So some of the store guys would go down, and that was probably, $200 or $500. You had to pay the guy to get it, and they'd give you the gun license. Burglaries. Oh man, if you phoned in a burglary, I saw this guy on the roof coming down the fire escape, the cops would go crazy to get out there quickly and beat the guy up if they caught him. They didn't want anything rocking their boat. Nothing. They didn't want people breaking into cars. They didn't want any of this. They had a great living. The cops didn't live in the city limits like the people lived. Some of them lived in the neighborhood where we lived, but they had private houses, which were rather expensive back then for the Bronx, and they had that. So they were living way above their means. It was done rather openly. It was blatant. It wasn't really under wraps. And it went on, but they kept a lid on things. Things didn't go bad, I had a friend, he was a cop, right? So he buys a motorcycle, like a 650 motorcycle, and he doesn't get license plates for it. He just drives it around, Hey, they were doing stuff like this, They were dirty, they were real dirty, and the whole department was dirty. And Serpico brought it out, Yeah, they did take narcotics, but they kept the narcotics out of the good neighborhoods. Did they support the bookmakers? Yes. Bookmakers, they didn't have the official gambling, so the bookmakers and the loan sharks were paying them. There were whorehouses in various locations, and they would pay the cops off. There were all sorts of stuff going on, and the cops were making a very nice living, but they weren't running around with yachts and Ferraris, and, they didn't have it that good. They had it pretty good. But they were backing the people. They wanted the people safe. They didn't want the people's cars broken into. They didn't want the houses broken into. They didn't want their stores robbed. And their system worked, and it went on for decades. And then Serpico kind of broke it up for them. Let me look at the live stream and see if I'm getting questions. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Trump-Musk fight now in a minute. Thank you to the moderators. Hello from Winchesterton Felds. I don't have any idea. Never heard of that place, but okay. Oh, I never read anything about a new bill in the LGBT community. Maybe something's there, but I never read it. I'm not saying that there's nothing there. I'm saying I never came across it. Okay, so what did Musk actually do? He said the reason that the Epstein papers, let's call it that, Jeffrey Epstein papers, never got released publicly is because Trump, the seated president, is all over those papers. And do I think that's true? 101%. There's pictures of him with Epstein. Yes. Musk was saying he's in the flight logs, or other people were. Personally, I have no doubt that Trump was up to his eyeballs in Epstein Island like the rest of them. And now Musk let the cat out of the bag. Now, Musk is Chinese, as some of you may have picked up. He even admitted once that he might be Chinese. He's not what he appears to be. If I tell you, most of you won't believe me, but he is not what he presents himself as. He likely is a Chinese agent, and he could have broke cover or something like that, but I don't know. I'm just guessing this is maybe something that is going on, but I don't have any substantiation, and I'm not even very sure that this is really the case. Chinese origins, yeah, but okay. He's a very ominous critter. We don't know where the heck he came from with all of a sudden he's a trillionaire. Not that old of a person. Trump is apparently cutting his funding. He gets a lot of government contracts. And now Trump is cutting his funding, I'm sure, for retaliation. Or maybe Trump was doing it anyway. Trump is a nasty individual to work with. Okay? Trump fires people. He's proud of firing people. He doesn't see himself as being deficient in the hiring department because he fires so many people. Now, this is very common with business people that are Satan bots. They will tell you their job is to hire the right people to do the work. That's their job. And they run around constantly trying to recruit and find people to work in their businesses, depending how big their businesses are. Okay? And Trump is one of those. Okay? The problem with Trump is he hires these people and then he winds up getting rid of him. Like he had a pretty good Secretary of Defense when he was president the first time, and after 6 and 9 months, he fired the guy. I think he was a four-star general previously or something like that, you know. And Biden had this loser of a Secretary of Defense that was just nothing. So, you know, why is this? Well, part of the problem is Trump hires them, praises the daylights out of them, and launches them, and pushes them and pressures them to work hard, 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 right? And he just squeezes everything out of them. And then when they're used up, all of a sudden they're no good and he gets another one, see? But this is deficient hiring because the turnover is bad. He should get the right people and he should not manage them so aggressively so they don't burn out and they stay in the position and they stay effective. But Trump is not that type of a personality, okay? So now Elon and Trump have had an explosion. And Elon's stock dropped about 14% in one day. So he lost many billions of dollars on paper from just the Tesla stock. Just Tesla. Now, Tesla is not such a great track record car in some ways. In other ways, it is. It has the luxury of a nice luxury car. It has the acceleration of a Ferrari. It really does. And it has the handling and stuff. It's a decent car, but how many people really want an electric car? Okay? See, if you're taking a trip with a gasoline car and you say, oh, look, I'm down to a quarter of a tank, I better keep my eye open for a gas station. You're on the interstate. Within 15 or 30 minutes, maximum 30 minutes, usually within 15 minutes, you'll see a gas station. Pull over, tank up, and now you're good for 200-300 miles, right? And how long does it take you to tank up? 5 minutes. And you can go to the bathroom, get yourself some ice cream or a soda or a coffee or whatever you want, right? No problem, right? Okay. With an electric car, that's not the case. So you got a range that maybe hits 200 miles, and then your stop has to be in a charging station, and you're probably going to have to pay for it, maybe not, maybe yes, and it's probably going to be at least 45 minutes to get a partial charge, an hour and a half or 2 hours. So if you're the type of guy that you don't mind sitting there for an hour and a half, having a large meal and getting online and answering emails and stuff like that while your car charges, you're okay. But these things are not that feasible, you understand? Now, let's say you live in not a mega community. Let's say you live in a city of 1 million or less. Well, you might, be able to use that type of car for local stuff. Maybe you go to the mall in the suburbs and it's 20 miles each way or 12 miles, maybe even 10. So yeah, you could drive out there back and forth. You could drive around the city. You could go to the restaurant, go to the movies, And then you come into your garage probably need a garage to have a car like this because you can't park it on the street and charge it. So not everybody's going to buy a car like this. If you're street parking, how? Be very inconvenient. If you have a garage, you can plug it in. So you go home, you plug it in, And even if you have a carport or something or a driveway, you could work it, you know. But you need something like that. A garage is really what you need because you could have bad weather with snow and rain and charging it outside. I don't know, you know. So you go in and you know, during the night you charge it up. So the thing is reasonably charged all the time. Okay? You know, that's what you do. Now, if your power goes out in a hurricane, you're out of luck, right? Once your charge runs down, you're not going to have another charge. Well, you got a similar problem with the gas. When I lived in hurricane country in Florida, I usually had between 2 and 3 cars, and I would make sure the cars were topped off when they were telling us the hurricane is on the way. I would take one car out one day and fill it up, and then the next day or later that day, take the other car or the third car and top them all off. So if we had a bad run of, you know, 3, 4 days without electricity, you can't pump the gas because the gas pumps don't work. So you could just rotate your cars and go to the supermarket or go where you have to go. And, you know, if you had to take a trip or you wanted to take a trip because there was no power and you had the car topped off, generally you didn't have to go more than, you know, 30 or 40 miles or 50 miles and there would be electricity there and you could get gas. So you didn't have a big problem because you had enough gas for, you know, you had 20 gallons before, so you only needed, you know, 3 gallons or something to get to where you can tank up again. You know, this type of thing. Me and my wife used to go to Orlando when the power was out where we were. And we'd stay there because they rarely ever had a power outage because of the amusement parks and where they were located. And we'd get a hotel over there and we'd have air conditioning. We'd, you know, go to the jacuzzi and go eat in the restaurants, maybe go to the amusement park, whatever we were going to do, you know. All right, so these electric cars are very limited, and Trump was sitting there saying, we don't want to just make electric cars. We want to make hybrids, we want to make electric cars, and we want to make gasoline-powered cars and diesel cars and all of that, right? And see, Trump is saying that there's different cars for different people. He doesn't want to cram electric vehicles down people's throats. So the funding going to these Tesla electric vehicles is going away, along with other things like military projects that Elon Musk has. So Elon Musk is going to take a giant dump down. He's going to fall down heavily in his money. You see, if he was nicer to Trump and did what Trump wanted, Trump probably would have went to some reasonable extent to be nicer to Elon. But now he's just interested in himself and he's making Elon look like a bad guy. Well, we're cutting his funding, so he's attacking me. After this happened, the media asked Trump about this with the Epstein papers, and Trump remained non-responsive. Now, Elon Musk also said that J.D. Vance should replace Trump and Trump should be impeached. J.D. Vance, the vice president, said he had no interest in going down this road. Elon Musk said it's pretty unlikely for him to be impeached because he has support in both houses, you know, House of Representatives and the Senate. So you need both houses to effectively impeach, and I don't think that it's very likely right now. But is Elon Musk finished? Trump is going to cut Elon Musk's funding. And Elon Musk is going to get whittled down to size. He probably has 25 times more money than Trump, if not 50 times more money. But what he doesn't have is any of the power that Trump has. He can buy politicians with his money. He can buy influence, but he doesn't have the raw power of a seated president. He doesn't even come anywhere near there. Now, if he was trying to wage war against a congressman, a member of the House of Representatives, or a member, even a senator maybe, that he could do. A senator, very difficult but possible, but a congressman, or if he wanted to go after a mayor or a governor or something like that, yeah, he could do it, or a general, but not a seated president. So Elon Musk crossed two red lines. One is he was essentially calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump. Number two, he's implicating Trump into the Epstein Network. So what you have to understand is Elon Musk is looking to destroy Donald Trump at this point in time. Now, what is the best thing for Trump to do? To release the Epstein papers, and they say that they were released, but they weren't really. They released some stuff, but they didn't really. They're not going to tell you what really happened. Is Epstein really dead? Do I know? I don't know if the guy's really dead or not. I don't know what happened. Do you? I don't think any of us know. So, moving along. This guy, Musk, controls X, formerly Twitter. And that is one of the, top 3 or top 5 social media platforms in the world or in the United States. It's huge, okay? I don't know how big it is, but it's massive. So he has a voice that is very loud. But again, so does Zuckerberg. So does YouTube. So does TikTok. So does Rumble. Not as TikTok and Rumble, not as big. Okay? But Zuckerberg knows he doesn't have any real power. He's got influence and money. Zuckerberg doesn't lock horns with Trump. Neither does Bill Gates. This is very extraordinary to see something like this. So, does Musk know things that we don't know at this point in time, and he's not afraid to tangle with a seated president? Well, he's a lot richer than Bill Gates and Zuckerberg. He's probably richer than Bill Gates and Zuckerberg combined. Amazon's not a social media program, but that guy keeps his mouth shut. He doesn't run around trying to tangle with a seated president. Nobody does, except Musk. So is he perhaps a Chinese agent? I don't know. It occurs to me, and I think it's real possible. And is he trying to destabilize the American government because China's going to incorporate that into some deeper, broader plan? I don't know. It's a possibility. China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba, Belarus, they would very much like to get rid of Trump and America. Now, it's one thing from us to talk about one big, beautiful bill and saying, well, we should impeach Trump. That's bad. But the Epstein thing, that's not just bad, that's super bad, combining the two together. One of the things Trump could do to make this go away is fire up the war with Iran. Because the American public would then have a whole lot more important things to talk about, think about, and dwell upon than this Elon Musk throwing mud balls at Trump. Is that Trump's best way out? Yep. So Trump is in a push-pull. He's trying to think of the danger of attacking Iran. And at the same time, he's thinking of the danger as Elon Musk unravels more and more of this stuff. And we don't know what else Elon Musk knows. But rest assured, Elon Musk knows a lot of stuff. And Vance may not be interested in supporting Elon Musk, but other people might, and they might be interested in impeaching Trump. Now, Elon Musk did say that later this year, America is going to be in a recession because of Trump's tariffs. Do I think that's true? Not exactly. I think they're already in a beginning of a recession, and it's going to keep getting worse unless Trump backs off on his crackpot tariff ideas, which nobody seems to want to participate in except Trump. I mean, the EU has never come to any good terms with him. There is some sort of a reasonable situation going on with China that's temporary, that's got another month or two to run, and then it's going to expire. He's not getting anywhere with Russia. Nor Iran. Now, Biden was a failure because he was an idiot and he was evil and rotten. And Obama was worse. Trump is a failure because he's trying to do things and he can't accomplish them. Greenland, nothing happened. Canada, Greenland would be a state. Canada would be a state. Mexico would be a state. Nothing happened. All three fail. He never got rid of Obamacare in his first term. He promised to do it. And in his second term, did he say, I'll make good on it, now I'll get rid of Obamacare? He did not. And that's garbage overpriced insurance. And he's continuing to have the people go through with that. Musk was talking about a stimulus package from saving all the money with Social Security, with DOGE and all that stuff. And does Trump ever talk about that? No. Trump doesn't want to help the poor people. Republicans don't help poor people. I thought he would do it to bolster the economy, to offset the trouble with the economy from the tariffs. But he don't talk about it. And we're in June already, so I wouldn't expect anything to come from Trump with a stimulus package. That would be an admission of a weak, bad economy. So instead of admitting it but saying I'm going to offset it with a stimulus package, which it would be a great offset, no, he's just not doing it. Biden miserably increased Social Security by a pittance because it didn't keep last year, because it didn't keep up with inflation. So basically, it was a reduction in Social Security. And did Trump do anything to offset that? No, no, no. People are enamored with Trump. He runs around wearing a hat that says "Make America Great Again." And he's failing left, right, and center. Trump is a sheer cold failure. What has he done? I can't see anything. He messed up Iran. He's not doing anything with Ukraine and Russia any good. It looks like the Pakistan-India thing is not blowing up too bad yet, but India has not turned on the water to Pakistan yet either, so it's going to blow up. He's not doing good there. He's not doing good in Libya. He's not doing good in certain countries in Africa where they're prosecuting Christians all the time. Although Trump may think that is a good thing, he, just won't tell you that. His tariff war isn't working. What has he done? China invited him to come visit China and he accepted. Maybe that'll go somewhere good. I don't know. At about the same time as this, China told Trump to watch himself with Taiwan, or there could be a world war. You know. So if the Donald wants to quash this Epstein and all the other stuff that Musk is bringing up, impeachment and things like that, his best move is to declare the negotiations with Iran a failure and attack Iran, with or without Israel. Now, Musk would have a very hard time doing anything about that. Let's see what Trump does. Trump may not like this because he's truly petrified of Iran. Believe me, he's scared bad about this. Sleeper agents in America, warships getting blown up, the Middle East getting attacked, oil going crazy. Trump has a conflict of interest. His family has a lot of businesses. And if Iran attacks Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia with the help of the Houthis, and maybe Iraq, the oil prices go to $200-300 a barrel, 200-300 a barrel, and people are paying $9, $10, $12 at the pump for a gallon of gas, and they can't go to work. Well, you're talking about massive problems. And I don't think Trump has any way to stop the Iranians from hitting these countries that are very close by. I think that it's not so easy for the Iranians to lob missiles better than 1,000 miles into Israel, because they're going to need guidance for those missiles. And I don't think they're going to get the guidance. I mean, do the missiles have optical readers? I don't think. I mean, such a thing is supposedly in existence, but I doubt they have it. And lasers, I doubt they have it. And radar guidance, and they might be able to propel them, keep the missiles on track with over the horizon big radar. Um, let's take a look and see what they tell us about that over the horizon radar range. Let's take a look. Should be able to get some insight onto this. Over the horizon radar range. Let's see. They say it's really designed to detect targets, whatever that mean, up to 3,000 kilometers, which is 1,800 miles roughly. The other radar is like line of sight radar, and that's probably 200 miles or something like that. And that would probably be enough for them to attack Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, oil refineries, the ports and piers they use to offload the oil, and the American bases in these countries. So this just tells me that Israel has to attack and take out their over the horizon radar right away. In other words, this has to be attacked first, not the not the nuclear facilities. Let's check gold and silver. We'll go to Kitco. Silver gold is still hovering in the 3,300 range, but we have a breakout with silver that's very interesting. It's about $36 an ounce for silver. That's, I would say, rather interesting. Let's see what oil is selling for. They try to have fraudulent sites come up and try to make you think they're going to tell you the price of oil, and they're not. It's in the low 60s oil. So it's actually at a pretty reduced level. It's not very high. But they are keeping gold down there in 33. See, the next pressure area breakthrough would be 3,500. If it gets from 3,500 up to maybe 3,650, then you could probably plan on it climbing to 4,000. At some point, it's going to get into runaway, where the prices are going to just be in gaga Google land, Like you might see, $5, $6, $7,000 gold, depending on what happens in the world. It could go crazy, but you got to see. But I think the sleeper here is the silver, because if silver goes to 100, it basically tripled from where it is now. And it's only at 100 an ounce. Where for gold to triple, it would have to be at 10,000 an ounce. See what I'm saying? So if gold went to 4,400 or something like that, you might easily see silver go to 60, 70, or 100 an ounce. Because people, it's a point we're not going to be able to buy a lot of gold, and they'll stop buying silver. What are my feelings on Bill Clinton? I think Bill Clinton's irrelevant. Why would you even care about him? The thought that Elon Musk is doing distractions with Trump, well, if he was going to do distractions with Trump, he would maybe talk about DOGE and Social Security fraud, but he wouldn't bring Epstein into the picture, and he wouldn't talk about impeaching Trump. No way. This is full-on attack. Yeah, Trump Trump sees that electric vehicles are limited because they're not for everybody. For reasons I told you. Let's say you live in New York and you want to go to Miami in the winter for a month. Okay? It's basically a 24-hour drive. So people would normally drive, spend the night, wake up early in the morning, and finish the drive. And that way you have your car in Miami. Or a lot of people go there for 4 months in the winter. So they drive their car down there. How the heck are you going to drive an electric car? I think it's 1,600 miles or something like that. How are you going to drive it? You have to stop and have all these recharges. You see the problem? They're not highly versatile vehicles. That's the problem. it has an application for it for sure. You know, if we had one here, would it be useful? Well, yeah, because Israel's a small country. To go from the furthest point in Israel, where you could go skiing in Mount Hermon, down to go, so in the winter you could ski on Mount Hermon in the morning and then jump in your car, and in that evening you could be swimming in a lot. 6 hours, roughly, 6.5 hours. Can you do that with a Tesla? Well, you'd probably have to stop once for a big charge. You know, and that you could do if you just had to stop once. But Israel's a small country now. See, they're not just at each other over electric vehicles. He brought in impeachment. He brought in Trump's going to have the country in a recession shortly this year due to tariffs. And he brought in the reason the Epstein stuff wasn't revealed is Trump's name's all over the place in there. That means Trump is a pedophile, a murderer, a demon worshiper, and a pervert. I wholeheartedly would say this is true. Okay, in my opinion, this is true of Trump and all the other idiots in Washington, D.C., but Elon Musk came out with it. So this is a lot deeper than electric vehicles. Trump's going to get revenge on Elon Musk through government contracts and cutting off the electrical vehicle thing. Well, a lot of people support Donald Trump, but I keep asking him to show me what Donald Trump did in the last 6 months that is any good, that holds water. And I can't find anybody to tell me anything. I can't find a thing that Trump did right. Not one. He closed the border. I stand corrected. He closed the border with Mexico and he broke up the Venezuelan gangs and deported them. Yes, he did that right. Has he gotten the millions of illegal aliens and sleeper agents out of America? Not even close. He has. I don't even think he's gotten 500,000 aliens out of America. Hasn't even approached it. He hasn't even scratched it. And he can't. It's not going to work for him. The economy's not good. He's made a mockery out of America. He backed off from the Houthis. And now it came out that the aircraft carrier Harry Truman came back to America the other day, and it has damage on it. People saw it. They could drive by where the boats appeared, well, at the base, and they saw the damage. And they lost a few, 2 or 3 F-18 or F-15 jets, whatever they were. If he can't fight the Houthis, how's he going to fight the Iranians? He can fight the Iranians. And I told you Israel can fight the Iranians too, and I'll repeat again how to do it. You're not going to take out their nuclear facilities, so what? Leave them. They're not a real danger today. And you're not going to take out their missile cities easily or at all. So what can you do? You can destroy Iran. What else do you have to do? You have to take out their 1,500 go-fast boats, which will be a nightmare to shipping in American and other countries' military vessels in the region. You have to take out all their crackpot hybrid boats that are designed to be container ships or look like container ships and launch drones and missiles. You got to get some of their missile submarines, the little ones they got that could lay nautical mines and obstruct oil traffic in the Straits of Hormuz. You're going to have a big price to pay to take out Iran. But what will take out Iran matches prophecy. Things are so bad in Iran, the people that live there all leave and scatter into every country in the world where the sword follows them and they get cut off. They got to leave. How do you do that? First, you're always going to take out the radar. Okay? Then you're going to take out military bases above ground. They don't hide all their military in the ground. Their air bases, you're going to have to take out whatever remaining ports and piers they have. And then you have to start taking out their power grid and their communications. And then you got to start attacking government installations like their parliament, their intelligence centers, military Pentagon type bases. They don't have everything underground, okay? Take out their bridges, their trains, everything, just cripple the entire country. That's the only way they'll do it. But they could try to take out the nuclear facilities. Now, it is thought by some experts that their underground missile cities and their underground nuclear facilities and anything else they have that's underground is going to have vents, ductwork. In other words, if you're 65 feet underground or 365 feet underground, you got to have air. You got to breathe air, okay? So there has to be ductwork with fans that are pulling air in to the underground facility for the people to breathe. That means there has to be an opening to the atmosphere to suck that air in. Now they could conceal the generator to control these fans to suck the air in inside the underground facility and vent the spent fumes from the diesel out into the atmosphere.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Your breakfast is beside the refrigerator. I'm going to run my errands.
Okay. Where is it, in the oven?
Beside the refrigerator on the couch.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so these vents that allow the air to get in can be hit. Does Israel and America have the precision bombs to do this? They do. Missiles and bombs, absolutely. Do you need 30,000-pound bombs to do this? No, but it makes it a lot easier if you're going to use a 30,000-pound bomb. But that's kind of overkill. A 2,000 to a 5,000-pound bomb is going to do the job. You want all the debris and everything to collapse the shaft so that people can't get a sufficient amount of air inside the underground facility. And what have you done? You have disabled the underground facility. How else can you do it? Now, this is a missile city or a nuclear facility or an underground manufacturing facility for drones or uniforms or anything else, okay? Or an underground facility in a mountain that the big shots in Iran will go hide in, anything like that. It still needs air. Can they disguise the vent so you're not going to see it readily? Yeah, but that's a little difficult to do because the vent can't be obstructed. You can't put shrubbery to close it up. You know, they could probably try certain things like indent it into the mountain 5 or 10 feet, so it just looks like a hole in the mountain. But you could take pictures and get it. So you close those vents, and your underground facility of any sort, or built into the side of a mountain of any sort, is going to have problems getting air. The other way to do it, and they probably would do it both ways, is you have to have entrances, which are also exits, in any of these underground facilities for people to come and go and in an emergency evacuate. Let's say they have an explosion and a fire and then people have to run out or something like that, right? So these missile cities have a number of entrances and exits. I heard they can be, even 10 or 12 per missile city. So these things can also be closed, although if you have multiples of them, that becomes a little bit difficult. But these entrance egress paths can be opened. In other words, they might have glass doors on them that can be closed to stop an invasion of special forces soldiers. It might be a 2-foot thick or 5-foot thick metal doors or something like that you're going to have to set a 10,000 pound explosive or something to destroy, or even more than that. They might open those in an emergency, and that might allow air to get in. And if you had 6 or 8 such of those doors, maybe you can actually get some air in there. You'd have to set up fans that are probably 10 feet in diameter or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, tediously you can hit the ducts. You could try to find a generator. Maybe the generator's outside the underground facility because it's easier to dissipate the heat and the fumes. So if you could find that the generator is providing the underground facility with electricity to operate. They need lights, they need ventilation, they need water pressure, they need electrical current to operate the machinery and all the stuff they have down there. So these maybe are big generators, big, the size of a school bus. Okay? Maybe they've got 4 or 5 of them, each one the size of a bus. That'd be likely. So maybe they can't put these underground because there's too much heat, noise, vibration, and smoke. They gotta keep them outside near there so they could be blown up, possibly. Now, what Hamas was doing was building the facilities near hospitals. This Gaza had 2.5 million people, and they had as many hospitals as a city with perhaps 8 or 9 million people, or 12 million people. It was an insane amount of hospitals. And they put a lot of their underground facility under a hospital, so they would use the hospital's water supply for sewage and, drinking water, tap water, and electricity, and they would get ventilation from the hospital. The thought being Israel wouldn't attack the hospitals, but Israel did attack the hospitals. So that was a bust for them. But I don't believe Iran does anything of that nature. They're way more sophisticated. But when you break it down to brass tacks, there's got to be an electrical supply in there that's running with fuel. it's not running with solar. I don't believe they could get enough solar to run it. If they did, on the side of the mountain or somewhere where the above ground, you'd see 450 solar panels, literally something like that. And all you got to do is fire a few rockets at them and the solar panels are gone, right? And then just wait a day or two and the batteries will run down and they're stuck with no electricity and they can't function. So they're not that stupid. They are probably somehow trying to disguise or conceal the generators. So you can't just go in and, in a coarse, brute force way, blow up their missile cities hundreds of feet underground or their nuclear facilities. They don't have those bombs. Unless Trump has come up with 100,000-pound bomb or something, you know, it doesn't exist. And even if he had a 100,000-pound bomb, and even if he did have a delivery system for said bomb, it may not even do it. Now, you also have to remember this. Okay, listen to me. You can attack, once you take out the radar, which is child's play. Iran can't defend themselves that well. Okay? Once you take out their radar, you could start sending in Warthogs, Apache helicopters, F-15s, F-16s, F-22s, F-35s, B-52s, B-2s, B-1s, all this stuff, right? Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. You start bombing all these underground missile cities. Forget the nuclear facilities. Forget that. You bomb the missile cities all around there. And that means there's no soldiers on the ground near there that are surviving. Okay? And Iran has no air force to worry about. And then they could parachute in 40 or 50 guys with detonation material on the ground, or they don't even have to parachute. They could land them with helicopters. Just bomb all the stuff around there, and then bring them in on helicopters and offload large explosives and, you know, put the explosives on some sort of a vehicle or something and move it into position, and you could blow up stuff too. That's a little bit hairy because you're going to have to be using large amounts of explosives, and you could use a little small vehicle in the helicopter to carry it over, but I don't know if they're going to bother doing that. It would be a means of last resort, you know. The missile cities will unload on the oil refineries of the Middle East countries and the military bases and the ports and the piers. And they can hit them because they just have to go across the Persian Gulf. And they have mobile radar in Iran. That's not over the horizon radar. It's probably good enough to reach the other side of the Persian Gulf, which isn't that wide. And they're mobile, so it's very difficult to take them out because they're never in the same spot. So it's a big job, and Trump's going to lose bases, and oil prices are going to surge. But now Trump's derriere is on the line with the Epstein file and impeachment. If Trump gets impeached and removed from office, you must understand, if that ever happens, they're going to turn around and try to criminally prosecute Trump when he's no longer the seated president. Now, if he finishes his term in office and he's a former seated president, well, we saw that before. Previously, they tried to put him in jail. So if he gets removed from office, they will certainly try to put him in jail. Certainly try to put him in jail. And he knows that. So you have to remember he's fighting for that. And we see ruler against ruler. Now, Musk is going to have an audience of the enemies of Trump, which he may not like. But enemy of my enemies, he may decide that he needs them to get rid of Trump, and then if he gets rid of Trump, he could reinstate his government grants and benefits and other things and run around promoting his electric vehicles and all this other stuff, right? I don't really know why he's such a big believer in the electric vehicles, but apparently he is. So he could be forced to go to the other enemies of Trump, and they may lead a charge against the Donald. And it could go to a civil war too, ruler against ruler. There are a lot of governors. Look, the governors of Oregon, Washington, the attorney generals of Oregon, Washington, and California 2 days ago all said they stand united against Trump and oppose him in every possible way. Do you think these 3 attorney generals did not and will not contact Elon Musk? I don't. I believe they will. And I believe Musk will undoubtedly talk to them. And there's more. New York doesn't like Trump. Jersey doesn't like Trump. Illinois, I don't think, likes Trump. There's probably those 3 states, Washington, Oregon, and California, and at least 5 or 6 other states that really are adamantly against Trump. At least another 5, 6. That's, 8 or 9 states. And you're talking heavy population, California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois. These are big populated states. So don't just count the state, count the population. There's plenty of people in Congress that don't like Trump. He's got a lot of problems, and there could be whistleblowers, so to speak, coming out that Trump was purging out of the government and he hasn't finished purging yet, and they could come out against Trump. So we might see something in a very big way happening from this. Elon Musk is not the runner-of-the-mill schmuck. And apparently he's got more guts than Bill Gates and Zuckerberg and the guy that owns Amazon, and all of them combined. Musk got 5 times more guts than all of them combined. So guts goes a long way, and Musk got guts, obviously. So I would say pay close attention, and the way Trump gets this to go away, if it gets to that point, is attack on Iran. Because that's going to cause so much blowback, both within the United States and around the world, that people aren't going to be very interested in what Elon Musk has to say anymore, because they're going to be reading about the battles every day in the news. Now, will Trump do that? That's his best move if he can't make this thing with Musk go away. Can he make this thing with Musk go away? I don't know. Musk isn't going to make it easy for him unless he makes concessions and throws bones at Musk, which he could do. Let me read the live stream. We have enough issues in America to deal with. Let these other countries deal with their own problems. We don't need to be the world's police. Yeah, but that's what you say. Trump, the role of America is to be the hammer of the whole earth. That's how they get everybody to accept the worthless currency that they just print at will. Because it's not worth anything. It's not backed by anything. So by being the hammer of the whole earth, they get people to accept the currency. Now, they have trouble with BRICS now. This trouble that they're trying to replace the dollar, and that means America goes down, and they can't fund their big military anymore. And so I don't think the American military is up to snuff either, and that's what's scaring Trump. Just like we saw Russia's military is not up to snuff. And just like we saw Ukraine's military is a heck of a lot more powerful than we ever thought possible. So let's see what happens. Musk may get mileage out of Iran making a monkey out of Trump, which they did. They're saying they have no intention of backpedaling and getting into any kind of a nuclear deal where they can't make their own uranium. And what they want is they want Trump to give them all the frozen money, the billions of dollars, cancel the sanctions, and they want to tell Trump, oh, we're only making 3% uranium for, civilian purposes. And Trump already said more than once, I think, why the heck does Iran need to make nuclear energy for electricity when they have all the gasoline they know what to do with? And he's right. So they just intend to lie and keep making high-grade spent uranium and jerk around the IAEA inspectors. And their idea was, at onset, to get all their funds released and the sanctions taken off. And then, lie about it and, stall it and drag it out for 6 months, and they'd be economically more sound, And Trump was telling them, well, we're not going to just lift the sanctions and give you the money back just because, we made a deal, we want to see compliance. So they realize it's a waste of time. And they realize Trump's afraid of them. So they just said, no, we're not doing it. Now, what Trump doesn't understand is if he does not attack, they will attack America on the homeland and or elsewhere, because Trump is still punishing them with grueling sanctions, putting sanctions on people that buy their oil. So he's really after them with sanctions. So they got an axe to grind with Trump. And they see him as weak. And that's the Middle East that I don't think Trump understands. And they'll go after him. And Houthis have no problem with it. And that's one of the reasons he's moving his military out of the Middle East. Well, Syria, anyway. We know the end. Elon, which is Iran and possibly Iraq and Syria, and Jeremiah 49 gets very badly busted up, so everybody leaves the country. And they scatter to every nation in the world where the sword follows them, and they're cut off, which is what they wanted for Israel. So they reap what they sow. Now, that's what we know is going to happen. We don't have an exact date, but we know that's what's going to happen, and it has not been fulfilled. And we know that Yemen gets destroyed by Israel, and they take the remnant of Yemen, which is called Edom in the prophecies of Jeremiah 49, and they take Edom as their possession or slaves, the remnant of Edom. So we know these two things are going to happen, okay? And we're watching for the timing, and we know there's going to be a siege on Israel. It already is in place. That's in Zechariah 12. And when we see this siege, we don't see the government of Israel operating at all. And that is very interesting. We just see the judges, the two witnesses working, which would be Enoch and Elijah. In addition, we see Apostle John as an apostle, and we see an anointed prince in the next temple from the line of David. So those are your four workmen in Zechariah 1 that terrify the heathen that have scattered Israel. So we know America's going down, and time's about up. And this thing with Elon Musk is a very unusual, crazy thing that I couldn't see coming. Yet here it is. Can it just blow away? Yeah. On the other hand, can it escalate massively? Yeah. We got to watch this and see. Because we're so far down the road, I don't think it's going to blow away. But let's watch. So that's what I got for you today. So please pray for me and my wife. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. We have a prayer request for EB, Echo Bravo. We still would want prayer for Shiloh the cat, wound healing, for Shiloh the cat, wound healing. And EB is having work done on the house, and we want to pray for good work and fair prices for work done on the house, good work and fair prices for EB. Okay, I don't know if there were other prayer requests, but I better look because this is a very important thing we do. No. It's very unusual that Israel would arm these gang of people in Gaza to do food distribution, to keep Hamas from stopping the food distribution. The whole thing over there is pretty wacko. I got another prayer request that just came in. Give me a second. Okay, a prayer request for ES, Echo Sierra, ES, Echo Sierra. Prayer request for gout to go away, gout, G-O-U-T. So the prayer request is for gout to be healed and go away for ES, Echo Sierra. Okay. So please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing of our bodies, and pray for our finances, and pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I told you we're in a severe drought here in Israel, so you might want to pray about that. It's up to you. Maybe you think it's God's will and we shouldn't pray for that. I submit it to you. I don't know. It could be either way. Maybe you should pray for the relief from the drought. I think that's if it's not God's will, the prayer won't be answered. I think we should pray for that. Okay? And pray for better videos with more insights and more prophecy. And I will keep you apprised. I do pay attention to Ukraine and Russia quite a bit, and I watch it. I do not think we're going to see any attack on NATO from Russia or NATO attacking Russia. I think it's going to be more of the same with Ukraine and Russia. I don't know what's going to happen with India and Pakistan, but I watch it closely. And I'm watching the situation with Iran very, very closely because that is extremely volatile right now. Okay? And there you have it. So I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I hope you got something out of this. Please hit the thumbs up. It's asking a very, very small thing from you. And you might want to subscribe. And I am out. Thanks, guys.